Today's show is all about reamping. What is it? Why should you do it? What equipment do you need? And how to use it. Hey everybody, Cameron here, back in the lab again, and today we are going to talk about reamping. I've had a lot of questions recently about reamping. Some people not even knowing what it is and never heard of it. Some people wondering what equipment they need. Do I need a reamp box? How should I be doing this? And there is a lot of good information out there to get you started down the right path, but there's also a lot of misinformation and a lot of conflicting theories and a lot of plain old guitar myths. So today, I'm going to show you what I use, how I use it, and maybe you can incorporate that into your workflow moving forward. So reamping is when you take a recorded DI guitar track, so a electric guitar recorded directly into the board. No amplifier, no effects, anything, just straight into the board, and you've recorded this DI track of your electric guitar. Now reamping it is when we send that DI signal out of our interface into effects or amplifiers or whatever it is we want to do, and then we record that amplifier back into our project. Now the reason you would want to do this is for creative flexibility. Let's say you've gone into the studio, you've got your gear all set up, and you've just recorded the perfect track. You just did the perfect take. But then later on in the process, you find out, oh, I really wish I would have used this amp, or I really wish I would have used this pedal. Just basically, sometimes you end up with your guitar tracks printed and it's not working out for the end mix, and you really wish you could just go back and re-record the guitar, right? If you already got the perfect take, you don't mess with it, right? But if you recorded a DI track along with your recorded amplifier and effects, then that DI track is still your perfect take, and you can reamp that through anything you want. It lets you play around with ideas, play around with different sounds, and it opens up a lot of creative possibilities. And that is the first thing to start with. Anytime you're recording guitar, you always want to split that signal. Go into a DI box and split your signal from the DI directly into the recording desk and then into your amp and record them both simultaneously. You never have to hear the DI track. You may never use it. You might never reamp, but it's there if you do want to do anything further with those tracks. Now the idea of reamping has been around for a long time. For example, David Gilmour's solo on Another Brick in the Wall Part 2. That solo was recorded directly in, I believe, into a Neve console, and then reamped back out through an amplifier, and then those signals were blended to give you that very distinctive sound you hear on that solo. This is not a new idea, reamping. This has been around for a long time. But I think it really gained in popularity in the beginning of the 2000s. This is where it all started for me, really. Line 6 had released their new Amp Farm plugin, and it started gaining popularity. So a lot of guitarists, whether they were just playing around or if they needed to use Amp Farm for their actual guitar sound, you're plugging straight into the desk, pulling up the Amp Farm plugin and selecting the Line 6 amplifier and recording that way. Now in your DAW, when you do that, the actual recorded track is the DI guitar signal, and then the plugin is just processing that after the fact. Those effects are not printed to tape. You're not stuck with them. And I think that, you know, at least for me, and I believe many other people, you're playing around with these amp simulator plugins, and you find out that, hey, you know what, they're just not that good yet. But guess what? We have the DI track, so we can reamp this back out through some real amps and get a great sound. And that's how it happened for me. And then I realized pretty quickly, hey, I can track with the Line 6 plugins, or I can track with real amps. Either way, I'm going to start tracking a DI signal for the guitar every single time. It just opens up so many possibilities. So I've been doing it for a very long time, and I do believe that's when it exploded in popularity, was around the time of amp simulator plugins. You just saw a lot more people doing it, a lot more people talking about it, and now it's a pretty ubiquitous practice. So if you haven't been doing this, you definitely should. So what I wanted to do today was take us through a reamping session. We've got a song set up, guitar tracks are recorded, rough mix going on, but we want to really up the game with these guitar sounds and see what we can do. So we'll just do this together. We'll reamp a bunch of guitar tracks and see what's really possible. Now, like I said, you always want to record a DI track along with whatever you're doing. In my case, one of my favorite ways to do this is with the JHS Colour Box. I use the JHS Colour Box for all kinds of things. Like I use them all over the place. I've got 2 of them now, and they're always out and being used. But you don't need anything that fancy. A simple DI box works. And then if you're recording with your Kemper or your Head Rush or your Quad Cortex, you can send a DI output from those along with your process signal. If you're not familiar with the capabilities on those units, we have some more videos coming up soon with tips and tricks on how you should be recording with your modelers, how to set up the routing, how to keep things as flexible as possible. But something to keep in mind is that if you're using any effects pedals in front of your Kemper or in front of your Quad Cortex, so let's say you have some distortion pedals, anything else in front of the chain, you need to split your DI signal off before those effects. That's why I kind of just recommend always using a DI, have a DI box, get yourself a JHS Colour Box, however you want to do it, and then split the signal right away. Guitar straight into DI, and then DI into the board and into the rest of your stuff at the same time. Simultaneously record both tracks. But if you don't use any other effects pedals other than your modeler, if you're recording with a modeler, then a lot of times all you need to do is set up your routing and go direct out from your pedal. So if you've got your DI track recorded successfully and you want to reamp, how do you get started? Well, in this video, we're going to be using a couple of different tools. First up, we've got the Radial Pro-RMP reamp box. I use these all the time. They're great and they're super affordable. I think you can pick these up for like 150 bucks. Great boxes. Next up, we'll also be using the UST Replay Box. These are great units with a little bit more functionality than something as basic as the Pro-RMP, but you do pay for it. And then last but not least, today we'll also be using a JHS Colour Box. Like I said, I love these. I use them for everything, but it is the most expensive box we're using today. Now, something you might be asking yourself is, why do I need a reamp box? Do I need a reamp box? And first I'll just state that even something as simple as a cheap Boss pedal, the buffer circuit in this will actually act as a reamp pedal, and it might surprise you how good it actually works. And to answer the question of do you need a reamp box, the answer to that is actually pretty complicated, but the short answer is no, you don't necessarily need a reamp box. You can come straight from your interface into the front of your amplifier and see how it works out for you. We have another video coming out next week that dives deep into the details of reamp boxes, what they do, and why you might need one. But for today, just keep in mind that impedance matching is a thing, and line level versus instrument level. And we will cover all of that in depth in the next video. We'll even go as far as testing reamp boxes versus one another to find out which is most transparent. We'll test them in real world use cases and really dig in and try to give you a great idea of what's going to work best for you. All right, so enough blabbing. Let's get started. Let's open up this session and let's work on a song. Before we get started, make sure you like and subscribe, and make sure you enter our giveaway using the link in the video description below. We've already given away one of the Mosky Klon clones, and at the time of this recording, we are very close to giving away that second pedal. And then even after that, we still have that Stratocaster to give away. So if you're not liked and subscribed and you haven't entered, make sure you take the time to do that right now. Okay, so getting started, let's open up a session. So I wrote this song for us real quick. Again, as you all know, it's my favorite part of doing these videos is playing with some music. And this time I wanted to do a pretty guitar-heavy track to have fun with so that we could play around with lots of reamping options. And did this one again in Reaper. Reaper seems to be very popular with you guys. Also, if you don't already have Reaper, there's a very long free trial so that you can try it out, and it's not that expensive for a personal license either. So this session right here that we're going to work on, all the session files will be available for download on our Patreon. If you're not a member of our Patreon, make sure you check out the link in the description below and go become a member. You'll get access to all of these files, and you'll be able to play around with this and do your own reamping. You'll also get access to any of the profiles or presets we use today, so check it out over at Patreon. So let's get a feel for this song. Right here we've got an intro guitar DI. And I went ahead and created the track we're going to reamp to, this intro git on track 2. We have a utility git DI. Didn't create a track for that yet. We've got a funky verse and the funky verse reamp track. We've got a verse DI. We've got a verse melody DI. And we've got the Les Paul DI, the Strat DI, and the Ibanez DI, as well as the solo DI. But let's just kind of peek through every part here and get a sense for what we've got going on so far. Okay, so we can definitely make this more interesting. Okay, so I think we get a feeling for the overall structure of the song. We've got an intro, we've got that main chorus type part, we've got a verse, we've got a chorus, we've got a verse. This is another chorus, and it looks like we've got the guitar solo and outro right here. We can take a quick listen to that. Okay, so that's the overall song. I think we've got a lot to work with, and definitely we can make some improvements. We're going to use this JHS Colour Box as our reamp box. So we're going to come out of our interface into the JHS, and then from the JHS, we're going to go ahead and go into the head rush for this track. I've got a pretty cool idea, so let's head over here, and I'll show you what we're going to do. All right, so what we've got here is we've come out of our interface into the JHS Colour Box. So we have the Colour Box set to XLR input, and then we're just coming out of the instrument output of the Colour Box into the head rush. And what we're going to do is I just want to build a preset really quick. You see I've got our 6-string lab Lowman 50. That's our 70s Bassman clone pack. It's available on our website if you're interested, or it's free if you're a member of our Patreon. Now, I've added an envelope filter, and I want to go ahead and add a little bit of an overdrive, but I'm going to use a clone. I am going to use the 6-string lab. We have one of our clones available in the Filth Harmonic pack, which is also available on our website, which is it's a pack of all of the very popular overdrive and distortion pedals. The one I am thinking of using this time around is going to be the, let's use our KTR Centaur clone. So let's load that up. And then my idea really kind of centers around the new pedal that Headrush gave us in that latest update, the splicer pedal. And I've been playing around with this a little bit in my free time, and I think I want to use this fluffy preset, but we're going to need to make some edits to this. We're going to do, yeah, dual's good. What we want to do is go ahead and set the sync. Now sync stays off. Let's go, when we pluck, restart the sequence, and then we're going to put the BPM, we're going to match it to our session, which I know is at 88 beats per minute. So that right there should be pretty cool. Let's reamp that, see how it changes things. Okay, so I've gone ahead and reamped that track. Let's take a listen and see what we think. All right, I think that's a huge improvement. Let's stick with that and let's get moving on. All right, so we are all set up to record. We're just gonna make some amount of noise for us and get a recording. So again, we're outline 5 to our reamp box, which is the JHS Colour Box right now. And then from there, we are recording in on this track 4. And we'll set it up now. All right, there we go. Now I think that we can kind of fade that in to help build tension into the break for the next one. So we're going to call that good for now. Now moving on. Now I actually already did this. Let's take a listen to what is called a funky verse here. It's going to solo this for you. Got a compressor on it that wanted you to hear it without that. This is just DI'd in through the color box. Like I said, I always use the color box for my DI. Now, that actually sounds pretty good on its own, like for a funky little part, just straight in through a good preamp. It's kind of a cool sound, but what I decided was we should reamp that out and put it into an amp and put a little wah on it, right? Like let's throw a little crybaby on there. So I did that, and for this I went out to the UST reamp box into a crybaby and then into the Headrush using another one of our Lowman 50 Bassman profiles that are available on the site. And let's hear what that sounded like. The idea was let's get a little wah and a real amp profile going alongside this DI track, and let's see if we can find a cool blend of the two. and see how that sounds. So what we can do is we can bring this DI up for that attack. So if we hear that not soloed in the mix, so I think that's really cool. That worked out exactly how I wanted it to. And that's another way you can use reamping. I just stole this idea from the story of David Gilmour recording direct in and then reamping and then blending the two signals for a solo. And it worked out really good. I think it sounds great. But this whole part, this whole funky part, honestly is a little too busy once we get into this having this little solo part over the verses. I think the syncopation of that funky part just kind of makes the whole thing too busy. So if I were to unmute this melody, in fact, and we can just hear, I think this. So, in my opinion, a little too much going on. That syncopation's got to go. We'll just concentrate on that lead melody and the other verse part. Now, this verses DI looks like we've got probably amplitude on that. And if we take a look at that, yeah, we got a Vibro King model built into amplitude, and honestly, I think it works. I think it works perfectly. So I'm not even going to bother to reamp this because this is great. Let's stick with this, I think. Love it. So we're going to stick with that. Get rid of the funky verses. We're going to leave this verse part alone, not reamp it. And then let's move on to this melody solo part. This has, it's another amplitude, and it's got a Mesa Boogie. And honestly, I just don't think this sound suits this part at all. To me, what I've heard so far, I seemed to be channeling a little bit of John Scofield or something, right? And that dual rectifier is not doing that part any justice. So this is one case where, you know, so if I had actually just recorded it through a dual rectifier and then not had a DI track that I could reamp, you know, we'd be in trouble. We'd have to redo the whole performance because this particular amp sound is definitely not fitting for the part. So we are going to completely delete this amplitude plugin, and we are going to reamp this. I know exactly what I want. Well, I know what I want to try. I know exactly what I would like to try for this track. So let's get to our I/O here. And again, I'm just going to add a new hardware out line out 5. And what I want to do with this is I have a clone of a Dumble clone on the Tonex that I want to use. I think it's going to be perfect. Okay, so we're going out of the replay box into the Tonex, and we're going to use this 6SL Dumble Dirt profile. Again, if you are a member of our Patreon, these profiles are available for you to go download right now. So get to Patreon, get these profiles. I think you'll dig this Dumble profile. It's I use it all the time. It's a great profile. So we're all set up to reamp this through the Tonex. So let's go ahead and we're just going to hit record and see if we like this better. Okay, now to me that definitely suits that part a little bit better. I was definitely doing some random interesting stuff there, so I think that kind of suits the mood slightly better. So let's go ahead and do it for the next one. Very cool. It really works good on that particular end part of that melody there. And I think it's going to work fine. We do a little something through the break with it here. So let's see if it works good here as well. Yeah, I think that's going to work really good in that part as well, especially once we get these mixed in and everything kind of balanced together. I think it's going to be great. But for now, we can move on to these kind of lead rocking parts. We got three. We got two on one side, one on the other, and they're just a little too high gain for my taste. So we're going to address those next. All right, so moving on to these main lead, harder riffs. This first track we're going to address is a Les Paul lead DI. Now this has amplitude on it. So it was originally played through, yes, an angle amplitude model. So let's go ahead and take a quick listen to the angle simulation, just see what we're working with. So I don't care for that, and I think what I want to do with it is this time we're gonna reamp out through a real amplifier. Let's go into a JCM 900 with a little bit of gain on it. We're gonna go out from the interface into the Radial Pro-RMP reamp box, straight into a JCM 900, into a 212 cab with a vintage 30 and a 75. We're going to mic just the vintage 30, but as a 212 cab, it's got a vintage 30 and a 75 in it. So I think it'll give us a bit more of a raw sound, little less gain. We don't want so much gain in the angle. I think it'll actually sound bigger. So yeah, let's see how this goes. We're going out through a Radial Pro-RMP straight into a JCM 900, into a 906, which is then into a Neve 1073 style preamp. And let's see what this live sound can do for us. I think we might like it a little bit better than what we've got going on right now. So here we go. Yeah, so I like that a lot better. A little less gain, a little more raw sounding. Let's go ahead and listen back. Most interfaces and DAWs will work together. So Reaper is aware of my interface, knows the amount of latency that interface should expect. So we're hearing a little bit of latency when we're recording these, but when we play back, that latency should be accounted for. So let's just see how that sounds now. yeah, so I'm a lot happier with that. Let's go ahead and fix the rest of these parts real quick. Okay, so we got those parts reamped, and now let's move on to the Strat lead DI. Okay, the Strat line out to the Radial Pro-RMP, into a hand-wired fuzz face clone, into the JCM 900 clean channel, then again into a Neve 1073 style preamp, and back in. So let's see how this sounds. I have a feeling we're going to like this a lot better than that amp sim we had on there. So let's record this one now. Yes, much better. Much better than that amp sim. It's going to sound really good. Yeah, I'm digging that a lot more than what we had before, so we're making progress. I'm going to go ahead and reamp that into all of these parts, and once again, we will move on. Okay, so now we've got our Strat reamped, and that's going to bring us to our last kind of heavy part, which is this offset guitar. It's an Ibanez. We're just doubling that up on the Strat side. Let's see what it's got on it currently. And let's see. UV lead. Oh, this just has guitar amp mono on a drive setting. I don't know that it sounds particularly good. Let's turn it up and see how it sounds. All right, so that's halfway cool, but we can do better. And this time, what we're going to do is let's use. So we've got a lot of amplitude. Well, we had a lot of amplitude going on. Now we've reamped everything. But let's, yeah, you know what? Let's try out one of the clones we made in our last episode. Let's try out one of those Bad Cat clones, maybe. Let's do the matching. It's just telling us this clone includes a cabinet, so make sure that's turned off, which it is. Let's see how this sounds. In this case, I think it's got a little too much gain, but we can really easily try something new. Let's look for one of our Lohman profiles. Let's do 18-inch cab. Let's see what this sounds like. Okay, I think that I like that lower gain better. Let's listen to it one more time, but I do think the lower gain makes it sound bigger. Yeah, I dig that, so we're going to roll with that. Okay, now that brings us to this solo part, which I already, previous to starting filming this, I recorded and reamped this through a JHS Colour Box, just cranked up to almost broken sounding, and then through just a clean Fender amp. You have to let me know what you think of that gainy setting on the JHS Colour Box. Let's roll into the solo. All right, and there we have it. We've reamped every guitar in this track, and I feel like we've taken it from kind of bland into something a lot more interesting. You have to let me know what you think. You know, what would you do differently? Did you hate any of my decisions? My main point here was, because we recorded the DI parts of every electric guitar track, we've now come back a few days later, and we've taken what was a very just kind of rough, stock sounding song, and just by doing nothing but reamping, we've made it a lot more raw and real and exciting, and kind of changed the entire tone of the song. So yeah, let me know what you think about it. Also, if you're a member on our Patreon, you can download this entire session here. So if you use Reaper, go ahead and download the Reaper, play with it, do your own reamping, put your own plugins on it. I would love to hear what you do with it, as opposed to what I did with it. If you don't use Reaper, all the stems are up on Patreon as well, so download the stems, import them into your DAW of choice, and yeah, please share them. I want to see what you guys do. But yeah, let's go ahead and let's throw a rough mix on this thing and listen all the way through. Okay, so real quickly before we go, I thought we could just compare the two different projects. So I went ahead and bounced a mix of the raw project that we started with, and then I bounced a mix of our reamp project. I thought we could just go through and compare them. This top track here is the raw tracks before we reamped everything, and the bottom track is our reamp session. So let's go ahead and just kind of solo back and forth between those two and see. Let's start with what we started with. Major difference. So there you go, that's some pretty stark differences. In under an hour with using only reamping, we've made a pretty huge difference in this song. I mean, even the sound stage ends up being different just from amplifier and microphone choices. And again, these are the raw guitar tracks. Both tracks have the same processing on the master bus. The only changes we made are purely guitar sounds, guitar tones. So it just goes to show you, you really do need to be careful when you're choosing what you lay down with your guitar. But anyway, that was fun. So there you have it. We were able to take just some rough idea guitar tracks, and in less than an hour we were able to reamp them and really create a much more impactful sound overall in the mix. So I hope that you learned something that you can use going forward from this episode. If you have any questions, comments, want to discuss it, please let's do that down in the comments. Don't forget that next week we have an episode coming out that dives deep into the technical details of individual reamp boxes and will hopefully help you really learn which piece of gear might work best for you. All of the files we used in today's episode are available on Patreon. The DAW session all of the raw guitar tracks, all the DI tracks, all the presets we used, any profiles we used, all available on our Patreon for you to go download and play with. Don't forget that we are still giving away guitar gear. We're about to give away our second pedal, and we still have that Stratocaster to give away. So if you haven't entered the competition yet, make sure you like and subscribe and visit the giveaway link in the video description below. Any of the gear that we use today, there are links below in the video description for you to check that gear out further. And come back for next week's episode. It's going to be a ton of fun. See you then.